Buried beneath miles of rock and silence, the Iron Hollow mine held secrets no engineer or historian was meant to uncover. What began as a routine safety inspection spiraled into a chilling descent through abandoned tunnels, faulty records, and something that defied both geology and reason. Through the recovered tapes, technical logs, and personal journals, the events of June 1976 are reconstructed with stark detail. This is not just the story of a collapse, it's the story of what was buried to make sure no one asked why. Dr. Elias Mercer. Geotechnical engineer, age 42. A veteran field analyst specializing in subsurface structural integrity. Known for his meticulous approach and calm under pressure, Mercer was contracted in 1976 to assess the long-abandoned Iron Hollow mine before redevelopment could proceed. He had no known family and kept extensive voice memos, many of which were recovered after the incident. His voice would become the anchor of the reconstruction. Clara Voss. Mining historian and safety consultant, age 34. Clara was assigned to the Iron Hollow inspection due to her expertise in historical mining practices and structural records. She had previously published papers on cover-ups in industrial collapses. Colleagues described her as sharp, skeptical, and deeply intuitive. Her written journal survived the collapse. Its last pages were written by flashlight, in near total silence. June 2, 1976, official inspection log. The Iron Hollow mine was first drilled into the shale belt of southern Montana in 1911. By 1959, its deepest chamber, Shaft 6, extended nearly 1,400 feet below surface. The mine was sealed abruptly in 1962 following a series of unexplained tremors and a partial collapse that killed 12 workers. No formal report was ever published. The site was marked structurally unstable and left untouched. In early 1976, the Montana Department of Geological Resources commissioned a survey to evaluate the feasibility of reopening the site for resource extraction. Two specialists were assigned, Dr. Elias Mercer, a seasoned geotechnical engineer with federal clearance, and Clara Voss, a mining historian with a history of challenging official narratives. What follows is a detailed reconstruction based on their recorded findings, voice logs, written notes, internal memos, as well as environmental data retrieved from a salvaged seismic monitor found weeks after the incident. Begin entry, Dr. Mercer, 8:14 a.m. Surface entry is intact. Preliminary scans show minimal stress fractures across the upper stratum. Air composition at the mouth is breathable, but dry. Iron content permeates every meter, it smells like blood and rust. Will descend at 0900. No one had entered Iron Hollow in over a decade. But something down there had never left. June 2, 1976, 9:03 a.m. The descent began without incident. Dr. Mercer activated the structural scanner strapped to his chest, logging acoustic returns every 10 meters. Clara followed closely, clipboard in hand, noting the oxidized latticework and obsolete reinforcements. Voss journal entry. Walls are bowing slightly, consistent with long-term load stress. Reinforcements dated 1948 show corrosion. No signs of seismic displacement yet. But there's a pressure in the air, like the mine doesn't want to be entered. At 180 feet, they reached Junction A, an intersection sealed during the 1962 collapse. Behind the wall, the scanner detected faint anomalies, small cavities, irregularly shaped. Mercer dismissed them as natural voids. Clara wasn't so sure. June 2, 1976, 10:40 a.m. At 520 feet, the team encountered their first acoustic discrepancy. A standard percussive echo test, designed to measure chamber volume, returned an impossible result. The echo came back sooner than expected. Mercer log. That should be a 2.1 second delay at this depth. We got 1.4. That means something dense is down there. Something that shouldn't be. The ambient temperature dropped by nearly 3 degrees Celsius. Their instruments began registering low-frequency tremors, undetectable to the human ear. Clara noted the mine's silence had changed, no longer empty, but listening. June 2, 1976, 12:15 p.m. Resting at the Station 4 outpost, Clara reviewed a set of original drift maps provided by the State Archive. She compared them to their current route, and found inconsistencies. Entire sections had been removed or rerouted. Voss Journal. The 1954 revision cuts off 2 entire levels, sectors E and F, with no explanation. The revisions are hand-corrected, not printed. Someone altered them deliberately. Mercer remained skeptical. Mines change over time. Flooding, seismic shifts, political motives, he reasoned. But Clara pointed out that Sector F was sealed just weeks before the 1962 collapse. The correlation was too precise to ignore. June 2, 1976, 13:47 p.m. Descending past 800 feet, the mine temperature inexplicably rose, a direct contradiction to standard geothermal profiles. The rock walls began to sweat, condensation dripped from rusted beams. Thermal sensors recorded ambient pockets exceeding 38 degrees Celsius. The air grew thick, metallic. In the distance, a low hum began to pulse through the walls, not mechanical, not seismic. Mercer log. Something's releasing heat down here. But there's no machinery. No geothermal vents. It's as if the rock itself is exhaling. Clara's hand shook as she wrote. In her journal, she drew a crude symbol she saw scratched into a support beam, a spiral within a spiral. It wasn't on any map. It wasn't from any mining code. June 2, 1976, 15:06 p.m. Without warning, the tunnel floor shifted beneath them. Not a collapse, a movement, slow and deliberate, as if the mine itself was repositioning. Equipment rattled. Dust fell in sheets from the beams above. Mercer recalibrated his instruments. The magnetic field had deviated, not just locally, but entirely. Compass needles spun. Radios went dead. Voss Journal. We are not inside the mine anymore. We are inside something else. The silence returned, but it was deeper now, so dense it swallowed breath and thought. They had gone too far to turn back. Something had noticed. June 2, 1976, 16:18 p.m. At 1,040 feet, the tunnel opened into a breached chamber that did not appear on any official schematic. The space was roughly octagonal, with blast scoring along the southern wall, recent, no more than a decade old. Mercer log. Someone tried to seal this off. But the blast was inward-facing. They weren't trying to block access. They were trying to contain something. The air was sulfuric, buzzing faintly with static. The floor bore tracks, rails for a cart system that ended abruptly at a collapsed shaft labeled F1. Clara noted the label had been burned, not faded, deliberately scorched out. June 2, 1976, 17:02 p.m. Inside the chamber, Clara discovered fragments of an ore unknown to her catalog, matte black, non-reflective, and warm to the touch. Mercer tested it with a spectrometer. The result returned no match in known mineral databases. Mercer log. It absorbs all light, even infrared. Structurally stable, but impossible to classify. Magnetic flux around it is erratic. This shouldn't exist in sedimentary strata. Clara compared it to entries from a 1958 geological survey that mentioned anomalous ferromagnetic deposits. That survey was later redacted. The black ore might have been the cause, or the consequence, of what happened here. June 2, 1976, 18:21 p.m. Their headlamps began flickering, intermittently extinguished by electromagnetic surges. Audio recorders captured low-band static laced with indecipherable pulses, like a pattern, or language. Mercer adjusted the range. The signal grew clearer. Mercer log. There's a rhythm to it. Not mechanical. Not geological. It's biological. Like a heartbeat. Clara grew pale. She recognized the pulsing cadence. It matched historical records from a cave-in she had studied in Siberia. The same signal had been recorded there. That mine had also been sealed. No one survived. June 2, 1976, 19:45 p.m. They made the decision to continue. Clara insisted the truth was deeper still. Mercer hesitated, but followed. They rigged a temporary descent system along shaft F1, its vertical depth unknown. At 90 feet down, their lights revealed etchings along the rock, spirals, intersecting lines, symbols with no linguistic root. Not made by tool or machine, they looked grown. Voss Journal. The mine is no longer a mine. It's become something else. An organism. A tomb. They descended further. The rope began to vibrate. June 2, 1976, 20:23 p.m. They reached the bottom of shaft F1. The floor was soft, not soil, not rock. It gave slightly beneath their boots, like decomposing vegetation. The chamber was vast and dark, lit only by their flickering headlamps. They attempted to mark the location with a beacon. The signal vanished. Mercer log. Compass dead. Signal dead. Light barely holds. It's like this place consumes information. Even memory feels thinner. Clara whispered a question not meant for Mercer. It was meant for whatever was now listening. And in the dark, something answered, not with sound, but with movement. Chapter 12, The Core Sample. June 2, 1976, 21:14 p.m. Dr. Mercer drilled into the chamber wall, extracting a core sample for analysis. The drill bit struck resistance almost immediately, not stone, but a fibrous substance with elasticity. The core, when extracted, resembled biological tissue. Mercer log. It's organic. Cellular structure without nuclei. Not plant, not animal. It responds to light, recoiling from the headlamp beam. This mine isn't sitting on an organism. It is the organism. Clara stared at the sample in horror. She whispered something barely audible on the tape. How deep does it go before it stops being Earth? June 2, 1976, 22:02 p.m. The tunnel pulsed. Subtle, rhythmic. As if it were breathing. Audio logs captured an infrasound hum that caused dizziness and auditory hallucinations. Clara heard voices, familiar, yet impossibly distant. Voss Journal. It called my name. Not once. Repeatedly. Not with sound, but pressure. Like it was already inside my skull. Mercer began losing coordination. His hands trembled. Sensors confirmed fluctuations in barometric pressure, rapid, irregular, internal. Something vast and living was displacing the air. Beneath them, the tunnel continued to breathe. June 2, 1976, 23:26 p.m. Clara wandered ahead during a lapse in communication. When Mercer found her, she was kneeling before a wall of living stone, black or fused with bone-like structures, forming impossible anatomical shapes. She didn't remember walking there. Mercer log. She was entranced. Eyes wide open, unblinking. I had to physically pull her away. She fought me. Screamed in a language I've never heard. Later, she denied the event entirely. Her journal from that hour contained only 3 words, repeated dozens of times. It remembers me. June 3, 1976, 0:11 a.m. A light appeared down the corridor, soft, golden, oscillating like a lantern. Clara ran toward it, shouting. Mercer followed, but the tunnel warped, geometry shifting, perspective distorting. They were no longer on mapped terrain. The light was not a flame. It was a lure. Mercer log. It moved against the wind. Against gravity. Like it was watching us as we followed it. When they caught up, the light vanished. And so did the tunnel behind them. June 3, 1976, 1:03 a.m. Far above them, sensors detected a sudden seismic event, a controlled implosion. The mine's upper shafts were being sealed. Not collapsed by accident, detonated. The outside world was cutting them off. Voss Journal. We were never meant to leave. They knew. This whole expedition was permission to disappear. Mercer tried the emergency transponder. No response. Only static, and beneath it, something else, not a signal, but a heartbeat. It was accelerating. June 3, 1976, 2:38 a.m. With the upper shafts destroyed, Mercer and Clara had only one direction left, further in. The tunnel narrowed unnaturally, forming an arch lined with bioluminescent veins pulsing with faint red light. Instruments stopped functioning entirely. Mercer log, manual entry. No GPS. No thermal. No pressure readouts. We're blind. But Clara insists the structure is guiding us, and I can't disagree. Voss Journal. It's no longer stone. It's memory. Layered, ancient, screaming silently. We are inside a nervous system, and we've reached its spine. June 3, 1976, 3:44 a.m. They emerged into a central cavity, spherical and smooth, with a vertical shaft extending above and below. In the center hovered a perfect black sphere, not suspended, but anchored by nothing. It blinked. Mercer log. There is no reflection. It's devouring all light. I cannot determine if it's an object or a hole in perception. Every time I blink, it's closer. Clara collapsed. Her pulse spiked to 190 BPM. She whispered the same word repeatedly, in a voice not her own. Reunion. June 3, 1976, 4:15 a.m. Attempting to retreat, they found themselves looping through the same corridor, identical turns, identical markings. Clara scratched symbols into the wall. 5 minutes later, they passed them again. Spatial distortion was total. They were no longer in Euclidean space. Mercer log. This mine is nonlinear. Self-replicating. A recursive structure. We are trapped in a geometry designed not for humans, but to contain humans. Clara's journal began including entries she hadn't written. Pages ahead were already filled, in her handwriting, describing things they had yet to witness. June 3, 1976, 5:12 a.m. In a side tunnel, they found a figure slumped against the wall, long dead, skeletal, dressed in a 1950s engineer's uniform. A rusted name tag, T. Halvorsen, the lead geologist from the 1962 collapse. In his hand, a reel recorder, intact. They played it. Static, then his voice. If you're hearing this, it means you ignored the warnings. We tried to close it. We failed. It doesn't end here, it spreads. Burn the maps. Seal everything. Forget this place existed. Clara began to cry. June 3, 1976, 6:03 a.m. At the tunnel's end was a vertical aperture, not drilled, but grown. It pulsed like a throat, opening and closing slowly. Beyond it, darkness deeper than light could measure. Clara approached. The aperture widened. Her journal fell from her pack. Final Mercer log. She stepped forward. Called it by name, something unpronounceable. I didn't stop her. I think, it recognized her. She disappeared without sound. Mercer didn't follow. But he knew it was only a matter of time. The mine had claimed her. And it was still hungry. June 3, 1976, 7:20 a.m. Dr. Mercer attempted emergency ascent. Using auxiliary oxygen and a tether line from their initial descent, he reached the lowest marked point of the upper shaft. But the rope ended in solid stone. The tunnel had shifted again, sealed itself shut. He activated the final emergency beacon. No signal. No return. Manual entry. I've run the numbers. Seismic realignment matches patterns from two other mines sealed between 1955 and 1963. They weren't abandoned. They were absorbed. Clara's journal lay in his lap. Her last written line was addressed to no one in particular. It was never a mine. It was always a mouth. June 3, 1976, 8:51 a.m. Recovered July 14, 1976, black box recorder, fragment C. Mercer's voice, quiet and fractured, ends the record.